children, how are you? Fine? Hope you are well and well aware about the recent development and the tragic endemic spread of COVID-19. So all of you are remaining confined with in your home, and I advise you not to come out, but at the same time your classes, your studies should not hamper. That's what we have planned, to study your online class. So today is the first session of my video session, and I am going to take up the first chapter of 12th biology, that is reproduction in organism. Under this topic we shall discuss today asexual reproduction. Now the question is, why does the need arise? What is the essential need for reproduction? As you know, it is the most fundamental property of a living organism is, whenever we got birth, we are having a limited lifespan, and after certain lifespan we shall die. This is sure for each and every living organism, irrespective of plants and animals, irrespective of microscopic to macroscopic. So the first thing we come to and discuss with you the term lifespan. What is lifespan? What is lifespan? Here lifespan we mean the span of life from birth to natural death. Point to be noted here, natural death. This lifespan of organism vary from plant to animal, from small to big plant and animal, but lifespan of an organism does not relate with its size. Let us see the lifespan of some organism. I have prepared a list of few plants and animals. Say for example mayfly, a small fly whose lifespan is only 1 day, just like a small insect, like your, say, Anopheles mosquito like appearance, but it is very fine wings and survive only for 1 day. Whereas butterfly of different types vary with respect of their lifespan, starting from 1 to 2 weeks. Wheat plant from 4 to 6 months, cow 15 to 18 years, dog 22 to 25 years, banana tree a maximum, depends upon the variety, of 25 years, human, it again vary from natural death of 70 to even sometimes 100 or 100 plus. Parrot having a lifespan of 140 years, but almost same size or little bigger. Crow, it is having much less than the lifespan of parrot. For a banyan tree, sometime 200 to even 500 years. A mango tree, 200 to 300 years. Although the size of banyan tree or mango tree might be always, if not most of the cases, sometime appears same in size but vary with respect to lifespan. You see, the lifespan of a small animal, so tortoise, it is more than 150 years. So the lifespan of different living organisms, if we take about the paddy, for the lifespan right from the natural birth to natural death is only 3 to 4 months. So lifespan of organism vary. Now after the end of lifespan, what will happen? They will die. So there will be a breakage of continuity of life. Here comes the question of reproduction. Reproduction is the process by means of which new individuals, what we call in biological term offspring. The offsprings are getting birth. from their parent. Now, what would be the process of reproduction? How? What would be the modality, mode of reproduction? Based on that, the reproduction is basically classified into different types. The first very simple type of reproduction we shall discuss here today, that is asexual reproduction. What does it mean, asexual reproduction? By the name itself, we mean that here there is no involvement of reproductive organ. That means the reproductive part are not involved in the process. Say for example, in case of plant, flowering plant, the reproductive part is the flower. Whereas in case of animals, male and female, they have the male reproductive parts separately with female reproductive parts. Of course, certain lower animals are there where both the male and the female reproductive part present within the same animal. That type of animal we called hermaphrodite. Can you recall the example of an hermaphrodite? Say for example, earthworm or leech. They are the best example where within the body of same earthworm or leech, both the male and female reproductive part present. Anyway, in case of asexual reproduction, the reproductive part are nowhere involved in this process. That means how the new individual, new offspring, new organisms are produced from the parents. Here, the new individual, new organisms are produced by different mode from the single parent, from the body of single parent. Let us discuss one by one the different mode of asexual reproduction. Say for example, the first example we shall cite asexual reproduction in the case of amoeba or paramecium. I have drawn here the figure of amoeba, where the mode of asexual reproduction we call as binary fission. Why it is called binary fission? The organism amoeba during the process of asexual reproduction first of all gets elongated. The nucleus present in the body of amoeba gets elongated and a constriction developed from the mid of its cell. It is a single cell animal, and the constriction further progress and ultimately divides the parent amoeba into two daughter amoeba. So this process we called as binary fission. It is a mode of asexual reproduction, very simple type of asexual reproduction, both in case of amoeba and paramecium. Let us give an example of how it takes place in paramecium. You see here asexual reproduction taking place in case of paramecium. Paramecium, otherwise called sleeper animalcule, appears to be sleeper-like and ciliated whole body is covered with cilia. So while paramecium undergoing asexual mode of reproduction, again just like amoeba, a constriction develops. This constriction further progress and ultimately touch to the midpoint, and the whole parent body of paramecium gets divided into two daughter paramecia. This is both are the cases of asexual reproduction called binary fission. Next, another mode of asexual reproduction which we see in the case of yeast, a unicellular fungi, where a small outgrowth develops from one end of the parent body. This outgrowth further grow and ultimately the outgrowth become maximum at its maximum growth and detach from the mother parent body and lives as an individual yeast. So this process of asexual reproduction we call budding. Why? Because it starts with the help of a bud formation. Bud means small outgrowth. Next type of asexual reproduction, again we see here same budding in case of Hydra. Hydra small outgrowth develop from any part of its body apart from the tentacle. These are the tentacles, the locomotory organ, and this bird further develops, gets matured, further more development, and ultimately when it fully matures, the tentacle develops in the offsprings and it gets detached from the parent body and starts living as a complete separate individual. In that way, birding is a very common type of asexual reproduction taking place in case of both Paramecium, Hydra as well as in the case of yeast. Next type of asexual mode of reproduction we see in the case of fungus. This process of asexual reproduction we call development by means of conidia. What is conidia? Here you have to remember what is conidia. Conidia is exogenously produced. You can see here how one after another the small outgrowth produced, and this small outgrowth, what you call as conidia, exogenously produced. That means it is not produced within the cell, within the body itself, and it is non-motile, means they are not movable. So this exogenously produced spore is called as conidia. This is very common type of asexual reproduction you can see in case of Paramecium. Another type of asexual mode of reproduction, again through spore. This is another view of conidia, the asexually reproducing spores, which are again exogenously produced, non-motile in nature in case of fungus. The another type of asexually reproducing spore we see in the case of Chlamydomonas, zoospore. This is endogenously produced and motile spore. Why they are motile? Because they have the external outgrowth called flagella. With the help of this flagella, they can move and reach to the come out of the parent body, and they can grow as an individual organism. Next, here we have made a comparison of asexually producing spores in case of zoospore, conidia and gamule. Zoospore, as you see the first view, second view conidia, that is zoospore is the endogenously produced spore, whereas conidia is the exogenously produced spore. Difference between zoospore and conidia is zoospore is motile in nature, movable because of the flagella. Conidia is non-motile and exogenously produced, and this is gamule. In the case of sponge, we can see these types of spore produced within the body of the sponge, through which they reproduce. So, if we now summarize the asexual mode of reproduction, where there is no involvement of sex, that is male and female organs, only one parent is quite capable enough to produce the next generations, and this is of different types based on the nature of the organisms. But one thing you have to be very specific and clear here: by means of this asexual reproduction, the individual organisms or offsprings, whatever produced, they are identical with respect of each other and identical to their parent. That means they are very similar in all respects. Not identical not only morphologically but identical genetically. These types of morphologically and genetically identical organisms we called as clone. So indirectly we can say they are clone to each other and clone to their parent also. There are different other mode of asexual reproduction, depends upon the nature of organism. We have a multiple fission also, we have fragmentation. So these are the different simple way how a new individual or offspring can be formed, produced from their parent. Now we shall ask some questions based on this. What do you mean by lifespan? You have to be very specific. Lifespan is a time period from birth to natural death. Now, why the question of reproduction comes to an organism? It is because no organism is immortal. Different organisms are having their different lifespan. Some are even few weeks to 1 day. As we have seen in case of mayfly, it is 1 day. As we have seen in case of butterfly, it is 1 to 2 weeks. But it can vary from few months to even 100 years or more than 100 years. Depends upon the nature of organism. But the lifespan of organism never depends on the size of organism. See, as I told earlier in my video session that the lifespan of tortoise is a very small organism, animal, reptile, belongs to reptile. It is more than 150 years. In the case of elephant, it is hardly 60 to 90 years. The big giant animal, whereas in case of parrot, it is 140 years as we have seen. Banyan tree, almost same size with respect of mango tree, but a mango tree where it varies from 100 to maximum 200 years, banyan tree can goes up to 500 years. Even lifespan of human being vary from human to human. And of course, environment plays a lot with respect to the lifespan of an organism. So it is due to that limited lifespan, and after the end of the lifespan, each and every organism has to die. That is why it is because of this, to maintain the continuity of race, so that the earth should not be devoid of living organism, we require to go through reproduction. And the first mode of reproduction we have discussed, that is asexual reproduction. By means of asexual reproduction, a new offspring, new individual produced from their parent body, where there is no involvement of sex organs, there is no formation of gamete. Here male and female gamete formation not at all takes place. You should be very clear in this. This is the basic difference between asexual and sexual. In sexual, male and female gamete formation is must. We shall discuss that part in the next class of sexual reproduction. And plant also undergo asexual reproduction, but in case of plant we use another terminology that is called as vegetative propagation. We shall discuss in our next class. So this asexual mode of reproduction are of different type, as we have discussed. That is number 1, binary fission. In case of amoeba and paramecium we see. Number 2, budding, as we see in case of Hydra, or we can see in case of unicellular fungi called yeast. We can see juice spore formation, Kendriya formation. We can see the gamule formation, or even multiple fission. Depends upon the nature of organisms. The type of asexual reproduction varies. I hope you could get a very clear idea about different mode of asexual reproduction and why the mode of reproduction is very essential for continuity of races, and the basic difference of asexual reproduction, as we have tagged this with cloning, because cloning means morphologically and genetically identical organisms. So if we want to prepare a clone, we have to solely depend on the asexual mode of reproduction, or in case of plant, vegetative propagation. Thank you.